For more on this, let's bring in Francesca Albanese, Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territories. Thank you for being with us here on France 24.
Thank you for having me.
You just heard our correspondent there, Noga Tarnapovsky, saying how, for now, mediation efforts with Gaza, there was a little bit of hope at the end of last week, but they're now at a complete standstill. What needs to be done, and what should be the UN's role?
Yeah, I was listening to the intervention before me, and I would like to reflect on the statement. There is very little push toward a ceasefire. The point is that even without push, without pressure, what concerns me the most is the total avoidance by UN member states to abide by international law. It's very clear because the International Court of Justice has issued provisional measures to avoid what it recognized to be a plausible genocide as early as January. And in July this year, it has said unequivocally that the occupation is illegal. Israel needs to withdraw the troops, dismantle the settlements, and make reparations to the Palestinians. Instead of working to make it possible, most member states, including in the West, are looking away, are pretending not to see what's happening. It's a carnage every single day. So yes, the United Nations is collectively responsible, but the United Nations is also fragmented as it has ever been.
So why is there a political will when it comes to Lebanon, but not when it comes to the Palestinian territories?
Not sure there is political will, but also the thing to end let's say the war with Lebanon. There was less push internally from the settlement bloc, which is becoming more and more influential in Israeli politics. To continue the war in order to regain land, while in Gaza, it's very clear that the end goal is to get the land that is inhabited from the Palestinian. This is what I write in my last report, and it's very important that people understand what's going on. Take seriously what Israeli leaders are saying, reoccupying Gaza, resettling Gaza, which means colonial erasure. So this is why I think in Gaza there is less impetus to end the war, because the war is functional to the destruction of the Palestinian people, who are the obstacle between where Israel is today and the realization of Greater Israel.
So as you state, Benjamin Netanyahu has popular backing for a lot of his policies when it comes to what's happened the last 14 months. That's on the one hand, domestically he has support. On the other hand, you point to alleged war crimes. So how should the United Nations interact with Israel's prime minister?
Well, there are different things. The United Nations do not only interact with the prime minister. The United Nations interact with Israel as a full member of the organization, a state which this year has killed hundreds of UN staff members. It has destroyed dozens of UN premises. It has even damaged and shot at UN peacekeepers. It hasn't damaged the United Nations like no other country in the entire history of the organization, and this is public knowledge. And in the face of it, Israel continues to be given carte blanche. So I think that the United Nations need to take a decision.
No other nation. I mean, I don't want to compare war crimes, but you know, there are plenty of places around the globe that have been carpet bombed by regimes.
Yeah, no, but I was not mentioning. No, you missed the point I was trying to make.
Please,
I was not mentioning the crimes against civilians. I was mentioning the assault on the United Nations as an organization.
Right, okay, got it,
its
clear.
Premises, its privileges and immunities, the whole smear campaign against UNRWA, the outlawing of UNRWA. So if you only look at Israel's conduct, because you asked me how the United Nations should behave, just because the United Nations has been under assault by Israel, like no other countries, no other situations, it should consider the status of Israel as one of its members, because it's in defiance of international law. Yes, like other countries, but not many other countries maintain an occupation since 57 years.
So are you suggesting a suspension or an exclusion of Israel from the United Nations?
At least waiving raising the opportunity and putting like a timeline, and measures have to be taken, under the law of state responsibilities. Complying with the ICJ advisory opinion imposes obligations on member states not to aid and assist the illegal endeavor that Israel maintains, not to recognize legal consequences from it, and make sure that political actions lead to the cessation of the illegal act, make sure that it leads to reparations. All this is a peremptory norm of international law that has been recalled in July by the International Court of Justice. And because there is the presumption that the Israelis committing an act of genocide within an international court of justice, there are more than 30 UN experts, including myself, who have denounced that genocide is being committed. In the face of this, while is Israel allowed to go away with impunity? The system risks to collapse, and we will all miss it.
One final quick question for you. You mentioned the International Court of Justice. Of course, the headlines have been in last week's about that other international court, the ICC. Is France correct when it says that because Israel is not a member of the International Criminal Court, that it won't arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he shows up in France?
I think that France is not correct in its interpretation. I think it's also very different from the interpretation of arrest warrants that France has given on other occasions. So it seems to me putting political convenience ahead of legality. And I'm not alone in this assessment, because there is, I think it's the syndicate of French magistrates who have, if I'm not wrong, with the name of the organization, which has pushed back and said that this is not correct. And it should be not the political establishment, but the courts to decide what's the course of action to abide by the ICC arrest warrants. So it seems to me that French magistrates agree that in case one of the three people who have been reached by an arrest warrant set foot in France or in other places where the ICC stated applies, they will be arrested.
I want to thank the UN Human Rights Commission's Francesca Albanese for being with us from Tunis.
Thank you.